First of all, I want to say hello, everyone, and welcome to hireEZ's webinar again. I'm Steven Jiang, CEO of hireEZ. I'm very, very excited to host today's conversation. We have an in-depth discussion with the top AI leaders here. Dr. Tianlong Chen, and he is our Chief AI Scientist at hireEZ, and Dr. Wenyue Hua, Senior Researcher at Microsoft Research AI, and also Dr. Elias Stengel Eskin, Assistant Professor at UT Austin. All the smart minds together, they will explore the cutting edge of AI research and translate those research work and development work into what matters most for the workforce and the recruiting industry. All right, so AI tools are already assisting recruiters in meaningful ways, from generating a JD and pass them, and to writing emails and automate scheduling. But today we are going deeper. We will discuss the challenges that remain, the breakthroughs on the horizon, and how AI can truly transform recruiting while protecting and creating meaningful jobs. All right, let's dive in. So the first question will be for Dr. Tianlong Chen. Tianlong, you and I have been working together day and night for our product and technology, okay? And our TA professionals are using ChatGPT, hireEZ, and other related products to generate job descriptions, pass job description, write emails, and automate scheduling, and many other more use cases. However, you also heard this from our users. There are certain things that recruiters still need to put a lot of time into. For example, they still need to spend time verifying whether AI-based search results are truly matched. Okay, so in our product, you see they click on good fit, not fit, good fit, not fit from the AI recommended results. So look, in the real world, actually many recruiters dream to have. Recruiters give a job description and to AI, and then AI will give the exactly matched candidates to them. This type of a highly accurate search engine or matching engine does not exist today. My question will be, why? What blocks us from having it?
Thank you for the question. Yeah. So as we all know, I have been working at hireEZ for a long time, like start from like early this year, and we do have make a lot of efforts on these directions. Although as Steven mentioned, there's still a huge gap, and between the ideal tools for like HR and the current status. So from my understanding, I think there is like a couple of reasons. First of all, I think a good high quality data is missing. Basically, data is contains like two parts. What will be the input and what will be the label. So the input will be like the hiring materials, job descriptions, or other applicant profiles, etc. We have a great amount of that. However, it's associated labels is problematic. We know the hiring system is very subjective. Different HRs have their very heterogeneous preference for the qualified candidate. So how to design a reliable and a customized reward functions will be a huge problem and one of the bottleneck towards to the ideal intelligent tools Steven just mentioned. And then let's see what happening in this community, for the mathematical problem, healthcare, financial problem, like OpenAI or other a huge tech lead companies, they basically actively hiring expert from this domain to label data. I think in order to prepare high quality data, we also need the support from HR team, from your expertise to prepare the foundation for the future intelligent tool. So second things I think is missing is recruiter and AI system feedback loop. So it contains like 2 to 3 subtle point. First of all, how the AI system can be explainable. Like for example, I give you a matched candidate. I should automatically provide some explanations of point to point why this funded matched candidate is matched the desired goal for the recruiter or the job description details in the input. So this is the first piece. Second piece is that how AI system can be customized based on recruiter's hobby, based on recruiter's function, preference, based on the related associated company's culture. And the last pieces in the second point will be how can we utilizing recruiters' real feedback to further refine or iterate the AI systems. All this type of like feedback loop is missing in the community, so which will also be another critical pieces towards to the ideal recruiting systems. And we also, I think, from my understanding, we also need to keep in mind the real useful tool always should be design a better AI to assist HR, facilitate the recruiting, rather than overfitting the scenarios only exist in researchers' imagination. I think that is the things I try to work on with my team members in hireEZ. And the last pieces for last point for my like answer basically will be I think it's a customization for nowadays AI, generative AI, or most state-of-art AI or agentic systems is still like under development. For example, the customization in the vertical domain of recruiting. So actually, I don't think it's a bad thing. Actually, I think it is an amazing opportunity for us and for hireEZ, for related researchers to build such systems based on highly carefully created data, carefully designed reward systems, carefully like collected recruiter feedbacks. So this is the things I feel very excited about. Thank you.
Great. You mentioned a couple of things and very practical and also intuitive, in my opinion, to our recruiters from your research and development work for the high quality data labeling. And this is overwhelmingly ignored or say underplayed by a lot of startups or even the big companies in our space. And when they develop the product and too much emphasis in the fancy UI UX and also too much into those very fancy algorithms or model training behind. So, but I think the fundamental and more grounded work is about how to cleaning the data and achieve the high quality data labeling. And this is something I learned from you. Very, very, very interesting. And you care about the users' feedback and their high quality data collected from the recruiters. And this is a game changer for our overall technology development. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Tianong, the follow-up question. So you also create this survey with our users, and you want to collect this feedback directly from them, and then use that as the reinforcement learning and labeled high quality labeled data for your algorithm. So can you give more details about that work?
Sure, for sure. So like one sentence summary. So what the whole effort is try to bring the AI system more close to the real recruiter and to hear their feedbacks and utilize that to further empower the AI system. So this is like a one sentence summary. So what did we do in detail? Basically, we want to decompose the complicated AI system into piecewise. And for each piecewise, the systems will have its intermediate outcomes. For example, it will give you the top ranked candidate from the job descriptions, from your like ideal imagination for the candidate. And also later we will ranking the applicants, and later on we will explain you or provide the report to the like potential recruiter of why it is matched. So after we decompose into several pieces, and for each individual pieces and its associated intermediate results, we will create a questionnaire. Basically, we try to obtain the feedbacks from recruiter whether the AI did a good job, or whether it did a not good job, or what is the gap between AI predictions and the real recruiter's thought. And all such kind of feedbacks will be directly enhance the AI thinking procedure and improve its prediction power and improve its reasoning power. The goal is try to let the AI system can more mimic and learning and feeding recruiter's mind and provide the best list of candidate to the recruiter. So this is a rough story we did in the past few weeks. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So one forecast, and I know one team of our much bigger team, and they are under your supervise on developing our next generation of a search engine, and that search engine will absolutely achieve the semantic level understanding of the job requirements. So we are very excited about that launch. Just a forecast, okay? So keep working your great job. Okay. All right. So I want to give you more time, but I definitely want to talk with the other two excellent researchers more. Okay. So my next question will be for Dr. Wenyue Hua. And Wenyue, you have been working with for Microsoft, and you are seeing a large-scale AI system, AI applications, and you also have been focusing on a lot of very significant, very impactful research work. So, and I am very impressed by your recent research paper, Rule Arena. And it's a benchmark for rule-guided reasoning with large LLMs in real-world scenarios, right? And this is amazing work in my opinion. And the Rule Arena benchmark stress tests large language models on real-world rules. So for example, tax, okay? Everybody here pay tax, right? And that's a real-world scenario. And also airlines and NBA trades. And you found many very interesting and also counterintuitive findings. And my question for you is that how would you adapt that to evaluate agents following employment laws, visas, rules, and internal compensation policies in the end-to-end hiring and recruiting, right? So this is also a lot of real scenario with multiple dimensions of rules and policies and variables. So I want to hear from you about the insights.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephen, for the question. So for Rule Arena, it is, as you described, is basically a paper trying to evaluate LM's reasoning following various rules. So so we have three scenarios. One is luggage in airport. So I think everyone, when you do international travel, you're thinking, okay, should I put this luggage with me, or should I check it out, or is there any combination? For example, if there were a group of people, then what's the best way to combine all the luggage so that we pay the list? And then for MBA transaction, so MBA transaction is more like an binary judgment. So I give you a transaction, and I want you, the AI system, tell me whether this transaction is legal or compliant to policy or not. And if it is not, then tell me which rule it breaks. And then for tax, it's basically, okay, give me all your W2 information, etc. Calculate me like what's the minimum tax that I should be paying. So I do think it's very possible to adopt such benchmarking to employment situation. For example, like we have employment policy, and it is, for example, like the easiest way is that you just put the employment policy in the context and then see here is a CV, here is a resume. Then do you think this AI, do you think we should hire this person? Or visa, like tell me if this person is from, say, is a student from blah blah, if I say a student from like Japan, and with like how many years stayed in the United States, can we hire this person under what visa? And also like internal policy, which can be say, okay, we hire this person for say level 4 in say Bay Area, what kind of salary range that we should offer to this person. So I mean, intuitively, it's definitely adoptable, but I do think there are many caveats that we need to like twist a little bit into this employment situation. So the main reason is that I think what's interesting about hiring is that you're not only dealing with money or like things, you're dealing with people. So for example, like I provide you a CV, and I tell you, say, okay, there is a bunch of like non-discrimination policy in the United States. And I ask you this AI, shall we employ this person or not? The AI can provide the answer yes or no, but you don't really know like whether there is any bias involved. So is there any words in the CV that's triggering some pre-training mystery in the model that it tells you no? Because for example, like the age. For example, it can kind of infer like the age of the person based on the working history and say, okay, I think this person is like over 40 or over 50, then I don't think this person is a good fit. So the answer provided by the AI, it could be implicitly biased, and you don't really know. And you won't tell whether it actually following the policy because it can provide you some other reason why I don't hire this person. You don't know whether it's really because there was some like inherent bad bias or it is not. So from this aspect, I do think in order to benchmark this, for example, if we have an AI system doing hiring, we do need a lot of adversarial testing with candidates from different, like various groups, various locations, age, background, etc., to see like statistically whether such bias actually exists. Because it's hard to tell simply from the result or the explanation generated by the AI what it actually doing, like underlyingly. So this is one thing. And the other thing is that I think in hiring process, although like I'm not a HR, but in my like hiring process that I experienced, I do have like a lot of conversation with the HRs. So in the future, say we have a super intelligent agent system doing this hiring. This agent is also going to talk to those candidates. And during those conversations, are all the questions kind of like eligible to ask? For example, like, does the agent say, okay, I for some reason I'm trying to ask you about your age implicitly. Maybe like not explicitly, like direct say how old are you, but like implicitly say like which year you graduate. And for example, like okay, even worse situation, like are you pregnant? Are you married? So during those conversations, it's a bit tricky. I'll say it will be harder to benchmark this AI's behavior, whether all the behaviors are obeying all the policies imposed. And it's not like benchmarking, say, here's my like W-2 and 1099 and tell me the tax that I should be paying. But like we need to benchmark this AI agent behavior under various conditions. So that's another. And also like for this internal compensation policy, I can sense a similar situation because you're not dealing with like things, a static thing. You're dealing with a human that can talk, that can interact, say like, here's my like 3 competing offers. And based on my like observation or like experience with AI, current AI system can be very like swayed by whatever the human user says. It may just say, yes, okay, I'm going to increase your salary. I'm going to increase your base. I'm going to increase your like sign-on bonus. And so one thing, it'd be kind of easy to check is whether that's kind of go out of range. So that's easy. But another thing that HR may need to pay attention to is whether the salary, like the package you provided, is kind of okay with all the other hired people in the company. You don't want to give someone like exceptionally high salary that's kind of break down the whole company's like salary level. And then this is not just about what salary I provide to this person, but also need to keep in mind what's the like say average salary, like what's the average salary in this level, what's the average for people in this company is having. So it will growing to be a more complicated situation. It could be about like it can be definitely about like negotiation ability, whether there's also like whether there's like information that's kind of internal to the company that's leaked during this negotiation, which can also happen a lot. Maybe like say the AI system just like exposed the whole like compensation in the company to the candidates. And the third is whether say the provided package complying with like say most of the people in the company. So I do think having this AI system dealing with human can be much more complicated than having an AI system that we evaluate to say what's the tax, what's the transaction, how many luggage I should be paying, because you're dealing with human. So that can be like more complicated.
Thank you. And everybody, I bet in the audience, okay, and we all listen to what you just said very, very carefully, and it's a very concerning that AI takes a lot of controls in the decision-making process of hiring and recruiting, and that and the good news is that I think this is the very well-known issues and concerns in the TA community, in HR community. So that's why the people-centric and how to loop people in the hiring and recruiting process. And that's the consensus and the common sense in the recruiting and HR product designing and also design and development. Okay, for sure. And you read some headlines and the news about some companies and even some big names, and they made mistakes over the automations. So, and you mentioned there are so many variables related to people, and it's a much more complicated than the things and the static rules policies itself, right? So the reasoning in today's and when you did your research paper, I think that was several months ago, and the reasoning capabilities in the real scenario, it's getting better with the new models, or actually the problems remain the same.
I think it's definitely getting better. What's complicated about those rule-based reasoning is, first of all, we all know that all those say visas, compensation policies, employment law, they're super long. It's not like we have a math problem or a coding problem, say that's like within like 1,000 tokens or 1,000 words, and then you tell me the solution. For like all those legal things, there are just so many pages. And so previously what we tried is that it's almost like the only thing we could try is that we put everything into the context. And then what the AI needs to do is that first they need to comprehend what's going on. And then they need to correctly select what rules that is applicable, that's relevant. And then third is that whether they actually apply the rule correctly or apply a combination of rules correctly. So with the increasing power of AI, I do think like in general, of course, their reasoning ability is stronger. But with rule-based reasoning, there can be more complications because you have you have so many rules in your context, and then you need to do first of all denoise, like which rules are relevant and which rules are not. So for example, I remember when I was doing this luggage situation. So you all know, like when dealing with luggage, you only pay attention to policies around luggage, right? but there are also like other rules around this airline. For example, say you need to pay $5 for the Wi-Fi in the airplane, or you need to pay like $5 for the orange juice in the if you want to buy in the airplane. And what we noticed is that some AI models, so at that time was like GPT 4.0, and I'm not sure if we have like 4.1 or something. So those noisy rules is really intervening with the reasoning process of this AI.
Wow.
Yeah. So they say, okay, I'm paying this luggage, and I think this person will also be interested in the Wi-Fi. So I just put $5 there. So as you can imagine, like with employment policy, with all those like visa, there will be like so many rules in the law, and you as a person, you won't like every time you won't tell the agent like which one are relevant. You really depends on the AI agent to tell me which one is relevant. But they may not be like super good at this, and they may put irrelevant situation, like irrelevant policies into this reasoning process and kind of intervene the result a little bit. So this is one.
So when you and even with so let's say if we train a AI agent to use the external tools, and those tools not necessarily to be the AI native tools, right? And can be very old school, the restrict rule-based tools, and would that help the situation?
Yeah, I definitely think they help. So but it still could be complicated it's still the reason that like you will have many intertwined rules within all like say those law books you have. So for those say there are many like say like logic puzzle solving tools or like external reasoning tools using like say first of all auto logic etc. That's like solving those logical puzzles. But then the thing is that when you have a super complex rules or like policies, do you know which rules we should put into those puzzle solvers? And also all those rules are like very natural language, right? So it can be like a super long sentence with several conditions, several constraints, and they're not in a very well-formed like format as those logic puzzles usually take. So can you parse those sentences into the input format that those solvers want? So that could be that could be hard as well. So in our experiment, we are trying to use this AI agent to use like coding, which is also like one type of function calling, which is like coding, to solve the situation for us. It definitely does better than natural language because you don't have those like numerical issues like 1 + 1 = 3, like those type of issues. But the hard part, which is understanding rule and selecting which rule is applicable in the current situation, this part is still complicated.
Wow, fascinating. And I hope more HR and recruiting leaders need to listen to this message. And it's a long way to go to say, hey, we put the AI agent and multi-agent systems over there and to handle the complicated human plus AI, this hybrid environments things, especially related to the HR and employment situations. And the good news is that HR folks are very much needed, and TA professionals are very much needed in the future world. So and I really appreciate your research work, and definitely we want to talk with you and work with you more to make sure that the AI practice and will be well benchmarked in a real scenario. And at the end, right, I think this is very, very important for all of us to keep this absolutely non-negotiable phase of building a better world with a fair world with for the humans. In the meantime, the AI will also involve in a lot of our work and life in the future. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So time flies, and it's almost half an hour, and but to me, it's just started, and now I want to take care of Elias, and you, congratulations, and you recently joined UT, and this is the best school in Texas. Okay, so congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, Elias, your work in UNC Chapel Hill and also now continues in UT. I think it's music to our audience for HR professionals. Why? Because your work centers on AI agents that can communicate and collaborate with the people, okay, and how to collaborate the AI plus human and collaborate with each other in a much productive way. So, and my question for you will be a little bit broader, okay? So, if you had to pick one near-term advance to transform recruiting, for example, better calibration for the search and matching, okay, and ambiguity handling for a lot of load taking, a lot of scheduling, and there's LLM-based features, or multi-agent distillation or multi-agent collaborations. So which moves the needle the most and why?
Yeah, so I think in the near term, the thing that I think is sort of the most important factor in kind of having successful human AI collaborations is what I would sort of broadly call like calibration or uncertainty handling. Um, so this I think speaks to things that both Tianlong and Wenyue said also about things like subjectivity, sort of handling edge cases, right? These things that we're not necessarily sure models are particularly good at. One of the big issues with the current set of models and agents that we have is basically that they're sort of eager employees in some sense, right? They tend to, you give them a task and their default response is basically, sure, I can handle that, right? Which sounds really great, except that they often can't handle the task, right? And so broadly, I think in the near term, what we should be kind of focusing on, or something that would make these systems a lot more usable, is basically having them be able to um, flag things on which they need more information, flag things that need to be sort of escalated. So for example, to go to like Wenyue's example of somebody with like a hiring kind of a negotiation going on in the hiring process. If you're like, even for human TA professionals, right? Like if you are in that situation, there's a very good chance that you would say, well, I can't actually make this call just by myself, right? I need to like send this up the chain to someone else and get some other input on this. Like I can't just sort of arbitrarily decide like who gets what offer. Um, this is something that is surprisingly hard to get models to do. So in like a lot of the failure cases are basically cases where you could have had a completely successful interaction with maybe a very small number of interactions with a person. Right. So in that case, right, it could basically have had a successful interaction if it had just been able to flag this as like something that actually needs more input, as opposed to something where it can basically say, yep, fine, your offer accepted, you get whatever salary you want, or whatever the sort of failure case in that situation is. So having models that have access to sort of a good estimate of uncertainty, I think is a sort of big near term challenge. And I think like one thing that makes it particularly difficult in this setting is that the metrics that you're going by are quite sort of downstream, right? So in the extreme case, right, like let's say we're talking about like uncertainty about ranking candidates. The sort of thing that determines whether you had a really good ranking of candidates or not is maybe like 5 years from now, did the person that you hired for that role really pan out, right? Like, could you have hired someone better? Did this person pan out? This is something that's like very hard to estimate, right? This is like something even a person will have, like even people who are hiring, there's a very long feedback cycle to know whether the process that you're using to hire is good or not, beyond like, did the person accept your offer? But like beyond that, did they do well at their job? Did they stay with your company? Like all these other factors. So I think that sort of factor makes doing this especially difficult. But if you can do this, I think it means that you can have a much more productive kind of collaboration between humans and AI, where like AI can handle a lot of the sort of less interesting, more repetitive parts of a job, while being able to still adequately flag these like edge cases, these things that are unusual, where like, some form is filled out in an unusual way and you need some human judgment, or there's like a subjective part of the task, right? Something where like it's very hard for a model to capture the kind of judgment that maybe a person could very easily capture by hopping on a call with someone. But you need something that basically flags this as saying like, this needs further kind of interaction.
Elias, and very, very insightful message from you, and also it's very grounded. And you mentioned the ambiguity in the ranking, and that's something we are very, very familiar with. So higher for quality or higher for speed or for quantity, and that's always the argument among the folks in the TA community. And unfortunately, and today, if you ask the TA leaders and the HR leaders, hey, how you evaluate your recruiters, and they say time to hire and cost per hire. And it's hard to, and not often, okay, to hear, yes, the talent density and the higher quality, no, because there's no such metrics or no near-term metrics. And unfortunately, the AI system really, really embrace the near-term metrics and reinforcement learning signals. This is also a lot of very, very challenging topic, definitely, and we want to find those high quality data post hiring, and to see if those signals can be fed into the learning cycle. So, Elias, and in your opinion, actually the ambiguity handling, and that will play a big role in the future recruiting and hiring.
Yes, yeah, I think absolutely. So I think the ability to handle sort of very underspecified, very ambiguous problems is sort of a core part of human intelligence, right? It's one of the key things where, like, if you look at tasks that are extremely hard to sort of automate, these are often tasks that involve a lot of basically subjective judgment, handling, really underspecified kinds of problems, like this sort of long-term hiring problem, where, you really don't have, even as a person, you have no true signal on like whether someone will be good, right? There are thousands of applicants. You just have to kind of pick one based on some kind of set of criteria that you think might be good. So I think this is something where, like, I think the sort of short-term outlook is like, how do we get models that can basically pass this on to a person who has this kind of like subjective judgment, has this ability to handle ambiguity. I think the longer term outlook is, how do we actually improve our entire, not just like the model's ability to handle ambiguity, which is already, that's like a research direction of its own, but how do you kind of improve like the system's ability to handle ambiguity? So there's the human who can already sort of handle ambiguity to some degree. There's the model that maybe can't handle ambiguity super well and maybe will be able to handle ambiguity better in the future. And then there's this like symbiotic system, right, that could potentially actually improve both in kind of both directions. So what I mean here is, like, for example, going back also to this point earlier that I think when you raised about like bias and things like that, people also have like a ton of biases in their hiring practices, right? That's sort of like a well-documented issue. One thing that we can, like one role that models can play, for example, is actually rather than trying like strictly speeding things up, actually adding friction in some places to basically slow down certain decisions, right? So if for example you have like this sort of incentive structure where you say like you're being evaluated on like how quickly you hire people, that might make people more prone to like certain heuristics or biases that could lead to kind of negative outcomes for this like whole system of like the human plus the model, like the whole hiring system. You could have, for example, a model act as like a kind of external analyst or like an external team member who basically asks key questions to be like, what makes you think that this candidate is particularly well suited to like succeed long term in this company, right? And that's the kind of thing where like you can basically actually improve the ability to handle this sort of underspecified problem by having a kind of collaboration or a dialogue between a person and a model, where the person might just kind of go on like some gut intuition or some kind of like more instinctive factor, versus the model, which may not be able to handle this problem on its own at all. Together in a team, they may end up actually being able to better handle these things because they have sort of complementary abilities.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, see, after this first 40 minutes, I feel I'm pretty proud of what Dan and the marketing team they did in the past weeks to put us all together to talk about TA. And talent acquisition recruiting is not as fancy as other other areas and people would talk about daily. So, but we put the smartest people in this webinar to let you folks think about recruiting and think about employment for the future, and that's something very, very meaningful for all of us. Okay, so regarding that, we now need to talk about the last question, and I think this is also the most important question for me nowadays. Okay, let's start from this. It's around the research papers related to AI's impacts on labor market. Okay, so labor market means our jobs, right? People's jobs, and the concerning problems have been observed and verified by researchers. For example, the Stanford Digital Economy Lab point out the early career squeeze in the most AI exposed jobs. Coding is one of them, okay? Software development. Employment for age 22 to 25. Let me repeat, age of 22 to 25, those are young folks, fare about 13%, 13% relative to less exposed peers. So losses show up in headcount more than wages. And a lot of research community, NBER also found that task substitution lowers labor demand within firms, companies, higher AI exposed across tasks. Okay, so if let's say a job is composed with a bunch of tasks, and AI exposed across the tasks depress the labor demand. And at hireEZ, we are committed to delivering a future world of jobs find people. Okay, and that's our mission and vision statement: jobs find people. So then our goal is to bring jobs to people and better jobs to more people, not fewer. Okay. So my question for all of us here, and especially for you folks, the top AI researcher, is that what will be the good technology and product pattern or any methodology in the technology and product development that can shift AI from squeezing people out to matching and upskilling people in. Okay, so don't kick them out, kick and bring people in. That should be the future word. Okay, and how can recruiters be more future ready and future proof? This is a very open question. Okay, and nobody has the answer, but that's exactly why we need to bring this up and to discuss it. All right, so Kenon, you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. I can
opinion.
start to share my 2 cents. Yeah, I do think it's open question. A lot of different people will have different thoughts for this challenging question. We must admit, like AI indeed try to become more and more powerful and can replace a few of the functions in the a few jobs. But we also need to admit humans still will be the core, the key for the job, for most of the jobs, and most of the functions cannot be replaced. So, but in order to directly related to Steven's question, I think I have two thoughts, 2 points related. So first one, so I think there indeed have some techniques can help to upscaling peoples. For example, we can think about some AI copilot training for the applicants. For example, if our job have some job descriptions and related requirement. Nowadays, so when the recruiter posts a job online, just a job requirement and what do we need for this job, and maybe in the future, our AI techniques can analysis these job descriptions or job requirement from the recruiter, and automatically generate a series of tutorials, a series of training materials, which could be helpful for broad audience to learn from that and well prepared for better prepared for the recruiter's requirement. So for the first point, the summary will be whether we can develop or leverage the AI copilot training techniques, which will provide associated technique or scale training materials for the broad applicants. So second pieces of point probably will be I think will be beneficial for both the recruiter and applicants. So I'm thinking about a lot of things, particularly for the recruiting difficulties coming from the communication gap between the recruiter and applicants. Whether we can leverage the nowadays state-of-art generative AI or AI reasoning approach to build a more personalized AI chatbot. And such chatbot will tell the applicants what is the real thoughts of recruiter. Although recruiter write down, I need a data scientist who will do the Python, who will do the Java. But indeed, in the mind of the recruiter, they may have other implicit requirement or preference. Whether the chatbot can learn more thoughts from HR and tells applicants more recruiter specific or recruiter personalized thought and their implicit requirement for the applicants. And for the applicants, once they see the job descriptions, recruitment on the website, they can also chat with our or the developed AI chatbot. And AI chatbot will summarize the sounds from the broad audience, broad applicants, and which we are shared with the recruiter. So I think the second point, one sentence summary, whether we can develop some AI techniques to bridge the communications between recruiter and applicants. I think that could be one way to alleviate a little bit of stress or pressures from both sides. So last point I want to add. So I think in the in the previous recruiting fashion, more people find people through techniques or through the fantastic platforms from our hireEZ or other platforms. I think in the future, maybe it will be the job and the people find digital workers plus human workers. So let's see AI not like a replacement for human, it's more like a tool to empower our applicants, empower our human workers to do a more efficient and effective job. So probably, just a guess, like my 2 cents will be maybe in the future, the recruiting will be organic combinations of AI digital worker plus human worker together, a combo. Thank you.
That's very interesting thought. Okay, so no one knows the future, but I love the ideas. But no matter what we explore in the future, I think we got to have a very great compliance in the technology development. And that's also on the other side. Okay, so I want to also hear from Elias and then Wenyue. Okay, and your thoughts about, hey, how can we help the people, especially recruiters, be more future-proof?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Tianlong on this point about education. So I think that one of the places where AI has a huge amount of potential is in sort of personalized education. I think it's actually a nice example of like a more general trend that kind of, I think, at least as someone who kind of develops this technology, I think people should think about more, which is like what are the sort of gaps in the market where basically effort isn't being efficiently allocated, right? So I think education is a perfect example of that, right? Where it is simply like there's no resource, um, there's no marketplace that kind of captures like a personalized educator for every person because it just wouldn't like that doesn't scale. The same way that like we have a huge shortage of teachers and educators in general, right? Yeah, even at a more specific level, it's not that there's like a lack of demand for people wanting to learn new skills. It's often that there's a lack of supply for someone who can kind of teach you those skills. If AI can kind of step into that role and be something that teaches you new skills, this kind of opens up like an entirely new sort of way of thinking about education as not just a thing that we do, in our childhoods and or teens and early 20s, but a sort of like ongoing thing where you're sort of learning things that interest you, learning new things constantly, in a very like hyper personalized way that doesn't necessarily involve like going to a class or anything like that, because you basically have like your own tutor for something that you would like to learn, something that you need to learn in order to, get a job that you'd like to have or something like that. So I think that's something that I'm sort of quite optimistic about, is the kind of ability of these models to act as sort of very personalized, very specialized teachers for specific skills.
And Elias, and I bet you also knew that OpenAI launched the certificate program, and
Mhm.
and definitely in the AI community, and people pay attention to the education, the reskill and upskill. And for us specifically, we also invest in the recruiting academy, and we want to provide that free resources to all recruiters. They don't have to be hireEZ's customers, users, everybody, as long as recruiters and they want to learn. So my point is that education, and that's a key, and re-education, continuous education. So, okay. So when you
Yeah, I totally agree with Tianlong and Elias. So I think education is almost the only way to keep upskilling and keep track of all the development of AI. So I think one thing that from recruiters' point, like from recruiters' aspect, is that um, can we develop something that provide real-time labor market intelligence? So for example, like we have this AI, and this AI, to be fair, they can read all LinkedIn if they have the APIs, right? And then you can say, okay, here I am an SDE, can you tell me what the job description, like summarization, all the skills required, what language I should be learning from real-time job postings, and then combine with personalized educators based on AI. So I think like from like the HR, like you can like help design such like say it's almost like information collection plus education, and then like tell whoever that are hired or like to be hired about like the skills that you're missing and the courses that you should be taking, you should be trained on. So and also I think one interesting recently I learned from like Salesforce is that it seems that Agentforce, which is the product they have in Salesforce, is not that easily adopted in real life. And so I think their product is almost like free for now, just for customers to use. So I think from the aspect of AI to completely have a digital worker, there may still be some time. So I do think we have some time to develop systems with like good real-time intelligence collection and good personalized AI educators to get used to this future where agents and AI will actually become like more competitive than today's. And so for now, a lot of AI, so for example, like Cursor, Copilot that I use every day, they make my work easier, but to some extent, they cannot completely do what I've been doing. So from that aspect, maybe we have more time to upskill ourselves anyway. So yeah.
Thank you. Actually, you are reading our mind, and we definitely have one ongoing work, and we want to fix the data ambiguity of today's job posting and today's profile resume information. And there are some database about those terminologies and annotation, but data is very unclean. So we want to rebuild the infrastructure, the data foundation. And I think that will benefit the future learning and development. So it's a long way to go. And in the meantime, we also have limited resources. But definitely that's the ongoing work, and the data infrastructure for the whole talent market is missing, or say is very out of date. So we want to fix it. So and also I think I also agree with you, and there are some time window for us to build this better, more friendly future. Okay, human and AI, how we can collaborate in a better way, in a more human-friendly way. Yeah. So hypes and practices, and there are gaps, huge gaps today. So all right. And I truly appreciate your time and the three very excellent AI researchers. And thank you for paying attention to the recruiting community. So and I hope you continuously stay in touch with us, and we want to also hear from you about your excellent work, your research work. And we need a more smart people like you folks to help contribute more to our community. Thank you.
The future of talent acquisition isn't coming. It's already here. See for yourself at hireEZ.com.